Okay, now, oh, and I'm reading this off the screen because I wrote a script, so I don't forget what I'm going to say. My apologies for any glare or problems with the camera during recording. Oh, and one more thing. Spoilers! I'm not finished collecting the issues of the Knightfall saga, but I've collected quite a few of them and done more than my fair share of research on the story. I'll be showing some of my issues for examples because I'm not too lazy to collect them. Instead of buying volumes with crappy glossy pages that don't have at all the feel of a comic book. Now then, where to begin? Well, first let's start with Dr. Lemonade's Azrael complaints. First of all, just as Dr. Lemonade fanboys over Bane, I'm gonna fanboy over Azrael. Only I'm going to back up my fandom with reasoning and examples of why Azrael is such a great character, while Bane is taking a back seat for most of the Knightfall saga, only appearing for a few panels in each issue, and that's really only during Breaking of the Bat and Who Rules the Night. Now, Azrael's full origin is not explained in the Sword of Azrael. That's only from the point where he finds out what Azrael is. We first see his father in his own Azrael vestments here. Anyway, we first see him in those vestments with the sword and the knight's helmet and tabard, etc. He shows up at his son's door with most of the costume taken off. Here's that. Jean-Paul Valley Jr., I'll be referring to him mostly as Jean-Paul Valley, comes to the door in his Beatles t-shirt, blue jeans, and glasses to find his father on the doorstep with this weird outfit on. On his deathbed, Jean-Paul Valley Sr. tells him to go and find Nomos in Switzerland, where everything will be explained. His full origin isn't explained until early in his solo comics, Azrael, not Azrael Agent of the Bat. Those are way later. It is mentioned in the Sword of Azrael that his preparation to become the Avenging Angel, or Angel of Death, which are two of his titles as Azrael, began before birth. Here. They return to that a year after Knight's End in his solo series, explaining how he is pretty much a test tube baby with some animal DNA to enhance his ability. I can't remember the name of the psychiatrist, but he says, "Poor devil, he's been terribly traumatized. He learned the secret of his birth, that his human mother was slaughtered and he was brought to term in a bottle, nurtured by animal fluids and periodically shocked with electricity." The change in his character from Sword of Azrael to the end of the Knightfall saga is typical of any origin storyline. This role extends beyond a comic book universe into things such as The Hobbit, where the main character, Bilbo, goes from a typical hobbit that keeps to himself to a brave adventurer and burglar, even taking on a dragon. A great comic example would be Peter Parker in Amazing Fantasy 15, the first appearance of Spider-Man. He begins as a nerdy kid who only worries about his own problems, with pretty much no backbone whatsoever. He then goes on to realize the world is bigger than him when his uncle dies, and his huge character change is that he realizes that, as cliche as it sounds, with great power comes great responsibility. In Knightfall, Jean-Paul Valley's plummet into insanity is his big change, and it is all caused by what is known as the system. The system's effects become more and more apparent through the entire saga, only slightly revealed in Sword of Azrael. The system is activated by Nomos, who, by the way, is a dwarf. You know what? Dr. Lemonade. Maybe that's why he looks like one. You know what? Here's some of his friends. Right here. He's a frickin' dwarf. Now, once Azrael takes on the mantle of the Bat for the first time in Knightfall Part 15... Yes, I'm using Yu-Gi-Oh cards as bookmarks so I don't have to like flip through the whole thing. Anyway, now once Azrael takes on the mantle of the Bat for the first time, he's not at all keeping to Batman's honor code. He's beating the shit out of people for answers instead of just scaring them like Bruce would. Not long after his first time out as Batman, he finds that the system allows him to design and create new gadgets, such as the Azrael Bat Gauntlets in Knightfall Part 17. Which are actually shown on the cover. But there's a better image of them right here. Here he is designing them. And here you actually see them. He develops the gauntlets and the Azbat suit in Batman number 500, which is the first suit to have a cape that is streamlined, works with a glider, and is not a hindrance in falls. Here. First appearance of the Azbat suit. Using the gauntlets he made, he challenges Bane for the first time in Knightfall Part 18. And then he fails miserably. Fails miserably. He then goes to put him again in the Azbat suit. Bane pretty much runs off like a bitch right here. And eventually they end up fighting on a train. Look familiar? Anyway, the train ends up going off the track and crashing. This may seem familiar to those of you who have been unfortunate enough to have seen Batman Begins. Once John Paul has defeated Bane here, it is revealed that the system causes hallucinations. When he sees Saint Dumas giving him orders to begin a crusade on Gotham in Batman number 501, right on the first page. It is also revealed that when he is apparently trying to kill Tim Drake in Robin number 1, that the system also causes John Paul to develop split personalities. He finally plunges fully into insanity, and Night's End ensues, and you know what happens from there. In his solo series, he discovers the rest of his origin, and his split personalities become more conflicted. Eventually, Azrael and John Paul are two totally different people in the same body. Well, Azrael's psychiatrist friend, again, is talking, and he says, "It is Azrael I'm talking to, isn't it? You're not John Paul Valley lurking under there, are you?" And Azrael says, "There is no John Paul Valley." Nomo says, "Not while you're wearing those vestments." Right over here. Dr. Lemonade. You're complaining that all Azrael does is meet and fight villains. That's all any protagonist does in comic books. Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, Superboy, Ghost Rider, all of them. That's what they do when they first start out. That's how the superhero universes work. Now about your argument with Batman Hush. There is always a romantic subplot between Batman and Catwoman. Always. That's pretty much the main conflict with those two. Same with Batman and Talia, who, by the way, ends up falling in love with John Paul Valley, as seen in Azrael number 29, which I have lying around here somewhere. Now, back to Night's End and your claim that Azrael is a villain. Azrael is most definitely not a villain. He's an anti-hero. There's a huge difference. His intentions are good, but the way he gets things done is not the hero way. A villain has bad intentions and purposefully gets things done as wickedly as possible. Azrael also doesn't hate his allies, as you've claimed, Dr. Lemonade. He simply disagrees with them and makes sure they know. Night's End is the point where Jean Paul is at his least sane, or most insane. He needs to kill Bruce, Tim, and Dick so that nobody can question his claim to the title of Batman. A ton of fighting starts, and finally Bruce, now healed and back to relatively good shape, literally shows John Paul the light, bringing him from the depths of madness back into their reality, instead of his own fantasy world where he was always destined to be the one and only Batman. Yes, it's anticlimactic, but putting Azrael in prison would be too much of a danger to other inmates, and killing would just break Batman's honor code. Bruce lets John Paul go free, and he goes off to have his own solo series, which I have shown a number of examples of. Yes, Azrael is complicated. He's supposed to be. It's one of the things that makes him so interesting. And this concludes my response to Dr. Lemonade's review of Knightfall.